So we're starting a new subject, which is fixed income. Now, last two consecutive CFA Level 1 exams, this is a subject where on an average most of the candidates have scored lowest, which means it's a focus point. My general understanding of how candidates feel about this subject is that people who are good with mathematics, especially algebra, for them this subject isn't as difficult. So if you're from engineering background or in general you're good with maths, you're going to be alright. But people who generally struggle with algebra or basic numeric calculations, for them this is going to be difficult. So my strategy for the reading is, or the subject is, I'm going to be relatively slow in the class and we'll try to practice more number of questions. I'll also make you write down all the important theory points. So when you go back and revise, just revise what we've done in the class and use the same technique that we do in the class, and more or less your subject is done. Okay. So the first topic is Introduction to Fixed Income Valuation. Learning outcome A, bond valuation using YTM or discount rate. So you will say, instead of learning outcome A, you will say A, B, C and G. I'm going to cover these 4 learning outcomes together. Okay, so first 2 minutes on basics. So every bond will have a face value, and most of the questions that we will be solving in the class, we would be keeping that face value as 1000. Now every bond will have a coupon rate, and you should be thinking of coupon rate less as a rate, more as a cash flow. So if I tell you that coupon rate is 12%, so that 12% of course is always as a function of face value. So but you should be thinking of this as more of a cash flow of 120 during the life. Maturity, let's say 5 years, and then a bond will have yield to maturity. This is the number that you're going to think more as a rate. Okay, so if I tell you that YTM is 15%, the way you think is that for this particular bond, an appropriate interest rate in the market is 15%. And then what are the cash flows that we're looking at? So an investor purchases the bond. At time 0, he will have to pay market value. So I'm going to say minus market value. So in these 4 learning outcomes, we would essentially be learning how to find out these market values. So investor will have to pay some amount to acquire the bond. This is time 1, time 2, time 3, time 4, time 5. So each of the year, once he's purchased the bond, he will be paid a coupon amount, which is face value into the coupon rate. So 1000 into 12%, every year we are looking at a cash flow of 120. And in the last year, he would also be paid the face value back, which means there would be an additional cash flow of 1000. So this face value has 2 usage. The first use is that coupon is always paid as a function of face value, 12% into 1000. Now appreciate the fact that face value doesn't have to be same as market value. So it is quite possible that in this example market value is 900 and face value is 1000. Coupon will always be paid as face value into the coupon rate. Second, this is the amount that is returned on the maturity of the bond. Are we okay with this? So when we did corporate finance, we did little bit of bond valuation. So that time we wrote a sentence. So we are going to write that sentence now, and we are going to extend that sentence as well. So if you remember, I told you this sentence on bond valuation we will complete after 2 months. So today is that day. So let's write down the sentence. Market value of a bond is present value of future cash flows discounted at a current YTM. So market value of a bond is present value of future cash flow discounted at current YTM. B, series of spot rates. Okay, so what are spot rates and how does it work? We're yet to see that. C, series of forward rates. or D, a combination of spot plus par rates. Market value for bond is present value of future cash flow discounted at either the YTM or the spot rates or the forward rates or spot plus par combination. Okay, so that's how we are going to learn to value the bond now. So the strategy for us is to do one very large example, and in the same example we will try to cover all sorts of valuation so that you will be able to link these rates with each other. So I've generally seen people have a lot of difficulty understanding the difference between spot and the forwards, or the difference between spot and YTM. So we'll try to kind of build one comprehensive example. Okay. So let's say we have a bond which has a face value of 1000. Coupon rate of the bond is 10%. Maturity of the bond is 5 years. Now what we have in addition to that is spot rates. So spot rate for year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4 and year 5. Let's say now intentionally going to exaggerate the numbers and keep large distances so that we learn something out of it. So 10%, 12, 13, 14 and 19%. The reason why there's a gap, it's intentional. It's just a classroom exercise to appreciate the smaller nuances. Now first thing, your understanding of spot rates has to be crystal clear. So you can think of spot rates as the true interest rate that exists in the market. That's how you should be thinking of this. Now the spot rates are typically YTMs of zero coupon bond. Don't worry if you don't understand this. Just write down. These are YTMs of zero coupon bonds. I'm not expecting you to understand this. We're just writing it. So how do you think of spot? Now listen to this very carefully. I am an investor. I have some money with me and I have to take a decision about investment. So I go to a bank. I'm just exaggerating, building up a scenario. So I go to a bank and I ask them that if I invest this money, how much return will I earn every year? So the banker in return is going to ask me what is the period for which you are planning to invest. So if I tell him that I wish to invest for 1 year, if I'm going to invest for 1 year, that means I'm expecting to receive cash flow out after 1 year. I'm going to invest now and I expect my money back in 1 year. Banker will say if you invest for 1 year, you will get 10%. But if I go to the banker and tell him, no, I would like to invest for 2 years, then he will say if that is the case, you will earn 12% on both the years. Guys, are we together here? But we are on the assumption that we do not get the cash flow. We do not get the cash flow till the end of second year. So think of these as some sort of zero coupon bonds. A zero coupon bond is where you invest now and you take your money only after maturity. You are not getting anything in between. Now you go to the bank and you say, no, I would like to buy a zero coupon bond for 3 years. So then bank will say, if that is the case, first year 13, second year 13, third year also 13. 4 years, so each of the year you are going to make 14%. And if you invest for 5 years, for each of the year you will make 19%. That's how you should be thinking of these spot rates. So if you invest into a zero coupon bond, that means the bond does not pay any cash flow whatsoever. The bond does not pay any cash flow whatsoever. Then the appropriate return that you earn for that maturity would be referred to as the spot rates. Are we okay with this? Now what some people think is, they think that, oh, fine, I want to invest only for 1 year, but I'll go to the bank and I'll tell them, no, I want to invest for 2 years. So first year my return is how much? 12, and then I'll go to them and say I don't wish to invest anymore. So it doesn't work that way. So what banker will do is, out of all the amount that is payable to you, he will calculate the returns in such a way that you actually earn less than 10%. Or maybe you earn 10%. That means he will penalize you a little for the maturity mismatch. You originally planned for 2 years, but you invested only for 1 year. So which means that depending on what maturity you decide to invest, the returns are going to be different. Now, in this case, the returns are upward sloping. So we draw something called as a spot curve. So on the y-axis, we write the spot rates, and on the x-axis, we write the maturity. And then we will say that spot curve here, a spot curve, at times also called as a zero curve. I'll give you time to write. So a spot curve or zero curve. Why zero curve? Because it is essentially a YTM on a zero coupon bond. So we will say a spot curve is upward sloping, which simply means that if you invest for longer maturity, you earn more per annum. Are we okay with this? So write down. So Murtuza has asked a question. He's asking, what if it's a non-zero coupon bond? That means what if it's a regular coupon bond? Then in a regular coupon bond, what we assume is that the cash flow that I receive in year 1, on that cash flow I'm going to earn 10%. But the cash flow that I receive in year 2, on that cash flow I'm going to earn 12%. That's how the valuation works. So now observe carefully. So this is valuation method B. Can you open up your definition of valuation? Value of a bond is present value of future cash flow discounted using current YTM was A and B was series of spot rates. So I'm going to value this particular bond now. Okay, so this particular bond has cash flow of 100 plus 100 plus 100 plus 100 plus 1100. Correct? So face value 1000, coupon rate 10%, maturity 5 years. Are we together with this? Guys, are we together with this? Now, the trick is that the first year cash flow you are going to discount using first year spot rate, and the second year cash flow you are going to discount using second year spot rate. So see how the valuation model is built up. This is 1 plus 10%, since the cash flow is coming after 1 year, raised to 1. Then 1 plus, what was the second spot rate? 12% raised to 2, because that needs to be discounted backwards for 2 years. Then 1 plus 13% raised to 3, 1 plus 14% raised to 4, and 1 plus 19% raised to 5. So that's how we are going to value this particular bond. We are going to discount respective cash flow with respective spot rates. Now observe how. So this investor went to the bank, and bank said that if you invest into 1 year zero coupon bond, then you will earn 10%. If you invest into 2 year zero coupon bond, then you will earn 12%. The investor said, I don't want to invest into a zero coupon bond. He said, I want to invest into a coupon bond. Are we together here? So then bank asked which one. So he said, I want a bond which has a coupon rate of 10%, face value of 1000. So what bank said is that, which means in the first year you will receive a cash flow of 100, second year cash flow of 100, third year 100, fourth year 100, and the fifth year you're going to receive a cash flow of 1100. So we can think of this coupon bond as a portfolio of 5 zero coupon bonds. Now think of this, and if you're learning fixed income valuation for the first time, this should be your eureka moment, because any coupon bond is actually a portfolio of multiple zero coupon bonds. So bank said that, okay, you want to buy this, no problem. What you're actually buying is first zero coupon bond, which has a face value of 100. And since it has a face value of 100, discount rate is 10%, we are going to sell you that bond at 100 divided by 1 plus 10% raised to 1. Then you're buying the next zero coupon bond, which has a face value of 100. Since current spot rate for 2 years is 12%, we are going to sell the bond to you at 100 divided by 1 plus 12% raised to 2. And in this fashion, 13, 14 and 19. So technically he ended up buying 5 separate zero coupon bonds with different face values. And that's how we are going to determine the valuation of the bond. Are we okay with this? So let's solve this question on your calculator. 100 divided by 1.1 equal to STO1. Okay, so can you tell me how much is that number? 90.90. Then 100 divided by 1.12 x square equal to 1.12 x square equal to 79.71. So make the number positive, put that into second memory slot, STO2. Then I'm going to inverse this. So 1.13 y raised to x3, 1.13 y raised to x3, and then use 1 by x button to put that in the denominator, multiplied with 100. Are we together with this? Should I repeat this again? So have 1.13 on your screen, then y raised to x button, then press 3 and then press equal to. So what you have on your screen is 1.13 raised to 3. Now press the 1 by x button to invert it so that it goes in the denominator and multiply with 100. Okay, how much is that? 69.30. Then in the same fashion, now this we don't have to invert. So you can say 100 divided by 1.14 and press x square button twice. So when you press x square twice, it will give you raised to 4. And when you press it 3 times, it will give you raised to 8. So now just press twice. So 100 divided by 1.14 x square, and that will be how much? 59.20. And then 1.19 y raised to x5, 1.19 y raised to x5, take an invert and multiply that with 1100. How much? 460.95. And then add up these 5 numbers. How much is that? 760.09. So this is the market value of the bond. Now again listen to this one more time carefully. So if an investor pays 760.09, he is eligible to receive 100 for 5 years and 1000 after 5 years. But technically, how did we do valuation? We did not think of this as one single bond, but we thought of this as a portfolio of multiple zero coupon bonds. A zero coupon bond is which pays you only one cash flow on maturity. So the first zero coupon bond had a face value of 100. Since the current spot rate in the market is 10%, an investor should earn 10% on that zero coupon bond. Therefore, it is sold to him at 90.90. Okay. So second zero coupon bond has a face value of 100, but it is sold to him at 79.71 in such a way that he earns 12% for 2 years. Let's cross check this for you. So now what you do is say 79.71 negative as present value. Imagine investor just purchases this bond. So 79.71 negative as present value. How much will he get in 2 years? 100. So 100 future value. 2 as n. Compute IY. How much is he earning? 12%. So the cash flow that he receives in the second year, he should earn 12% on that. Are you following this? So in this fashion, investor purchased 5 separate zero coupon bonds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The price of each of the bond was this. You add up this and what he gets is 760.09. Are we okay with this? So now, okay. So now, put yourself in the shoes of this investor. So again, I'm actually on valuation method A. Valuation method A. So this is the investor who is going to buy the bond at a price of 760.09. And how is that price calculated? So 100, 100, 100, 100 and 1100. So 1 plus 10% raised to 1, 1 plus 12% raised to 2. So now, based on the previous logic, we calculated the bond price, which is 760.09. Now imagine the investor doesn't understand much about finance, neither does he understand much about the coupons and other things. So he goes to the bank, he says, fine, I'm willing to buy the bond. I'm going to pay 760.09 and then I will get whatever cash flow that you've promised. But I just want to know that how much am I going to earn on this bond every year? How much will I earn on this bond every year? So the banker will say, for the first cash flow you will earn 10, then you will earn second cash flow 12, then third cash flow 13, fourth cash flow 14 and the last cash flow 19. Right? Now the investor is confused because he was expecting how much will I earn, you will give him a single number. But instead of giving him a single number, you're giving him 5 different numbers, right? So that's not helping. So what we want to do is we want to simplify this for him. Instead of using 5 different rates, now please look at this carefully. We wish to use just one single rate, X. Okay, so 100 divided by 1 plus X raised to 2, 100 divided by 1 plus X raised to 3, 100 divided by 1 plus X raised to 4 and 1100 divided by 1 plus X raised to 5. One single rate that will do the job, that will also make the value of the bond equal to 760.09. I'm repeating again. Instead of using 5 different rates, we are going to use one single rate that will equate the equations. So this one single rate is going to be some sort of a mathematical approximation of those series of spot rates. Are you following this? And if you're observing this equation, you would realize that this number is going to be nothing but IRR. Correct? Because IRR is that rate which equates the set of cash flows. So this X is nothing but IRR. So we can easily solve this using the IRR function. So press the cash flow button. Press the cash flow button. Make your cash flow 0 as 760.09. Make your cash flow 0 as 760.09. Then cash flow 1 as 100. Cash flow 0 as 760.09. Cash flow 1 as 100. Frequency 1 760.09 negative because the money is going out and 100 would be positive. Okay. Now frequency 1 should be how much? 4 or 5? It should be 4. So frequency 1 is 4 because 100 is being repeated 4 times. Then go on to cash flow 2 and make that 1100. Cash flow 2, make that 1100. Are we okay? Now we've inserted all the cash flows. Press the IRR button and say compute. 17.60%. So Now we have answer to investor's question. Investor comes to you and says, if I buy this bond at 760.09, how much will I earn on this bond? You tell him approximately on an average. I'm emphasizing the word on an average because it's a approximation or it's a mathematical average of those spot rates. So on an average, what you're going to earn is 17.60%. Now, if you would observe, what we have here is an annuity. Do we have an annuity? And if you have annuity, we don't really have to make use of the IRR function. We could have easily done that using the IY function. Using the PMT and the IY function on the calculator. Are we okay? So let's solve the same IRR. Let's solve the same IRR using the TVM row now. Second clear TVM. Now a lot of people make mistake here, so I want you to listen to this carefully. 760.09 negative present value. 760.09 negative present value. 100 is payment, because 100 is what we receive every year. 1000 is future value. Now your 100 is repeated how many times? 4 times or 5 times? 5 times. Because when you say future value 1000, so that 1000 out of 1100 is taken care of. So you'll have to set your n as equal to 5. So keep your n as 5. Now one common confusion people have is they don't understand which sign to be given to which cash flow. So the simple logic is 760.09 is going out, so negative sign. 100 is going to come in, so positive sign. That 1000 is also going to come in, so positive sign. And then say compute IY and you will get 17.60. Are you? So this 17.60 in the bond world is referred to as the YTM, yield to maturity. So then what is YTM? It is a single point mathematical approximation of multiple spot rates. So instead of telling investor that you're going to earn 10, 12, 13, 14 or 19, you just tell him that on an average on all the cash flows, you're going to earn 17.60%. Another thing to notice is that your YTM is very, very close to last spot rate. Your YTM is closer to the last spot rate, which means even though it's an average, it is definitely not an arithmetic average. Maybe it's some sort of a weighted average where heavy weights are assigned to last cash flows. Are we doing okay with this? Alright, so again, the big picture. We are on fixed income. Topic is fixed income valuation. It's I think third or fourth topic in the subject. I think it's more logical to learn this first and then the other theory subjects, other theory readings. So we are on to bond valuation, and we said market value for bond is present value of all the future cash flow, either at YTM or a series of spot rates. Now we've learned both of them. If you have a YTM, that is just an approximation of multiple spot rates, so use one single rate to discount. And if you have spot rates, then respective spot rate for respective cash flows.